Good too. Now we'll get paid.
Cool.
Yeah, Java.
Welcome everyone to this month's Microsoft Copilot user group meeting for March 2024. Oh, another logo that I've meant to have this one up, not the other one. Sorry, it's my mistake. A couple of housekeeping things. Please make sure that you do sign in. Microsoft like to keep track of who's here on site for fires, emergencies, earthquake, tornadoes. Toilets out pretty much just straight from the door, right behind the elevators, essentially. We've got the foyer area for there as well. And if there's a fire, don't use the windows, use the stairs. And emergency exit is follow Carlo. Yep. Down, yeah, they're behind. The stairs are behind the toilets, I think. They're like behind. So there's a fire or earthquake. That's our evacuation route. Yet again, as I said, welcome to this month's user group meeting. This is the second meeting of our user group, so we're still getting the dust settled. I'm still getting slides and everything delivered correctly. It does take a little bit. But as a little bit of overview of the user group for those who haven't attended before or are unsure, essentially we started this group last month and having in-person meetings. We kicked up in December, started making the noise about it. And we meet essentially January through December on the first Wednesday of each month. And just want to make a clarification point because you will see my name associated with two user groups. We have the Adelaide Microsoft Copilot user group, which is meeting on the first Wednesday. And then we also have the Adelaide Microsoft 365 user group, which meets on the third Tuesday. Sorry, the mental blank then. So as a bit of a clarification point, the 365 user group is pretty much encompassing all of 365, where Copilot is just going to really focus on Copilot and not just Copilot for Microsoft 365. Because Microsoft and Copilot for 365 is one type of Copilot. And then we've got, all of 365 and SharePoint and Teams and everything in the 365 user group. Thanks to our sponsors, Microsoft, for today's location. They've graciously decided or let us use this auditorium now for many, many years through various user groups, so it is greatly appreciated. And Arconosis, which is my consulting firm for the pizzas and for my time as well, and Nuago as well for the pizzas. We have contributed to them. A little bit about myself. If you don't know who I am, my name is Daniel Brown. Thank you for seeing somehow my face. I've been doing the user groups for quite some time. Certified alpha tester, Windows Insider, you name it. I've been doing it currently. So that's a little bit about myself. We do have a growing community of user groups here in Adelaide. We've had user groups in Adelaide here for at least 20, 25 years. The original one being the .NET user group, and then we've also got Office 365 user group, which I've got to rename. The data analytics group, which was old school SQL Server for anyone who's involved in that. Power BI group, Dynamics user group, the Azure user group, which I think is kicking back up again, and the IT Pro user group who had their meeting yesterday. So that's more for IT pros in the sense of sysadmins in 365 world, Intune, Azure. The difference in my head is portal.azure, portal.office.com. Those are that's the sort of the rough distinction point. Microsoft AI Tour. Yes, it's an old slide, but I just wanted to mention it. It did happen early last month. By all accounts, it was pretty cool. If you didn't hear about it, we had some top brass from Microsoft Seattle come out, talk about generative AI, the AI Tour for a day out in Sydney and various other locations around the world. That said, we are having another, what are they calling it, Carlo, the mini AI Tour? AI Summit. Yep. That's happening in pretty much every city except Adelaide. So, and Perth, yeah, sorry. So there'll be a lot of content coming out, heaps of stuff around it. It's not only just a tour in Australia, it's going worldwide as well. So there will be a lot of content coming over the next few weeks in the build up to that. But unfortunately, yes, we don't make the list of this one, unfortunately. Digital Workplace Conference. Now, I'm assuming no one went to the New Zealand one that happened at the end of the month. Cool. If you don't know this conference, this was started quite some time ago as the SharePoint conference, many moons ago, and it's evolved into the Digital Workplace Conference. And Debbie Island from New Zealand, she set up and founded these conferences, and it's really the modern work productivity. How can we use the platform stack of 365 to increase productivity, increase our work, make life easier? And yes, that just happened in New Zealand. A whole bunch of people who come to the user group, the 365 user group, people like Joel Olson, Michael Knoll, they did attend in person. Who, geez, show my age here. Joel Olson used to be the old product manager for SharePoint. So if you use SharePoint 2010, he signed off on the shipping date at Microsoft. And he's still involved with 365, and great conference. A couple more events just to skim through. We've got community conference coming up in April, May. These ones are all overseas, but we're going to get content online, various bits and pieces. Most of them are now happening in America and Europe at the moment. European Collab Summit. This is a pretty big one. This is where Microsoft do tend to make quite a few announcements in the Power Platform stack. It is in person yet again in Germany, but we'll get content, bits and pieces out of it as that comes. TechCon, yet another one. America and Seattle, Washington and Seattle in America. Obviously, a lot of these are going to have a big focus on AI, Copilot, and everything in between, machine learning. Power Platform Conference in Las Vegas, another big one. Yet again, most of these are in person only, with a lot of the content not being online, but they will filter through. What's new in Copilot? So this is the big chunk that I wanted to get through today. This is just the last month of Copilot announcements that I managed to gather on my time online. So, hey! So this is really just Copilot for 365 as well. I've got slides for all of these because these are the sort of top picks that I've sort of picked out to go over. And yeah, there is a lot of change in the wind, a lot of integration, a lot of things happening in the Copilot space. And I just don't mean Copilot for 365. I mean right throughout. But one of the big ones is 17 more languages in Copilot. So now you're going to be able to chat to Copilot in whatever language you want, and it will respond back to you in that language as well. And that is starting to roll out now, as of March, April, they said. So it's going to be interesting to see how it comes through, but this is pretty much in line with Microsoft's vision, with everything becoming more accessible to everyone, bringing in these languages. There is going to be not so many of these languages supported in Excel for some reason, but I suspect that will change over time. Copilot Lab. Has anyone heard of Copilot Lab? Yes, you should have heard of Copilot Lab.
Yeah.
So Copilot Lab is basically a hub where you can get stories, prompts, whole bunch of information, whole bunch of content on how to use and adopt Copilot. And I'm sure I've missed some topics on that, but there is a lot of content, a lot of info on there.
Big one. There's high quality prompts that we see that work successfully.
Yep.
That we shared there, but you then be able to on-share them. So you can then click the share button and share them with colleagues.
Yep.
It's going to be the hub.
Like a prompt library as well.
Library, yeah. It's going to be the hub for all the training as well.
Yep. Oh, so as in the model as well, or hub for training as in training people.
User training.
And user training. Yep.
How to use Copilot and all the different apps. It's now become that one-stop shop.
Yep. So definitely check it out. As Carlo said, they're going to be working on being able to share those high-quality prompts, and those prompts have come from Microsoft Learning, as in their back end of
customers.
What you're seeing customers do.
What we test, obviously, it's all de-identified. It's not going to a company-specific thing. It's not going to reason over it. But when you go there, have a look. You'll see that wherever it's as a person or a meeting title or something like that, it's basically a free-form text field. And then when you use that prompt, it will ask you to fill in the gaps with your specific information.
Yeah. What should we be telling clients?
So rather than talk about it, we'll just load it up. Maybe it'll way easier.
No, we never get to see what you prompt. You get to see from a global view, hundreds of millions of customers, what are the highest.
It's not you or tenancy specific. This is global specific.
Yeah. So it's nothing specific. There's no user identifiable data. We're not using any data to train the models, but these are, for example, some of the examples that we would come up.
So Copilot Lab, all these prompts that Microsoft has essentially seen bubble up to the high quality prompts in the prompt library. And yet you can then filter on what do you want to ask, edit, you wanted to understand something, you want to catch up on things, so you can start to filter. I mean, eventually, in my mind, this is something that you would wane off yourself over time. Like, you wouldn't be using this after 3 years of being a Copilot user. This is something that you want to check on every so often, but this is when you've really had that light experience, no experience, interaction with Copilot. Yeah.
Favorite ones that you like, so that you can always go back to them, because this is the browser experience, but there's also an in-app experience in every app.
Yeah.
So you can go back to it, go, okay, these are the 6 that I really like, that I always use. And it just saves you having to type them out.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very cool, very worth, 15 minutes to look around the site? Not even. Certainly, if you're looking at pushing out Copilot, using it, and you want to get an idea of your end users' perspective as well, definitely worthwhile checking that one out. I've got the video, but it goes for 30 seconds. We can scroll through that, but it's just a page. I'll skip that one. The other one is the mobile app. Who's got Copilot on the mobile? Cool. A lot of people. So this is essentially, and yet again, this is an old term, but for historical reasons, we have to sort of say it today, Bing Chat. This was Bing Chat. Now it's been renamed to Microsoft Copilot. It's not Bing Chat anymore, but this is the historical of it. And it is through your mobile phone. It can be connected to your tenancy or not. So it depends on, if you sign in, what credentials you use, what license you've got. You can actually then have Copilot grounded in your tenancy data or Bing Chat data.
No, so just a slight addendum. So this will only give you access to Copilot.
This is the Copilot one. Oh, yep.
Or Copilot. So it's only web-grounded data that you'll see in the Copilot app.
Yep.
When it's in the Copilot for Microsoft 365 mobile app, it's still Copilot with commercial data protection. So it has no
It still kicks in.
access to your tenant data.
Oh, okay.
It's not M365 chat.
Fingers crossed.
Which is going to be changed names soon as well.
Yeah. And this is where, if anyone who plays Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, Teams, this is where we're going to get into Copilot. But I put up a poll on LinkedIn, and a lot of people started off with not having this on their phone. And then all of a sudden, whole people have put it on their phone. It seems very much of an uptick. Yes, Gemini and everything else is on people's phones as well. But to know that Copilot is literally side by side there, the user base is growing, the interactions is growing. Obviously, I don't know the usage data, but from what I know of people and what I've been having chats with, how you got Copilot on the phone, generally the answer is yes. It's definitely what I'm saying. Copilot and Forms. So who uses Microsoft Forms? It's a pretty good app. I like it. Simple, clean. But who's used Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate? You've probably already seen the Copilot in them. Now it's coming to Forms. So you'll be able to essentially create forms by using natural language and get that Copilot. I should have dragged that text over. Sorry. And have that natural language response in terms of creating the forms, doing the questions, possible answers. I don't think it will cover branching at this stage. Yeah, it may or may not. I haven't seen anything specific to say it will, but my guess at the moment, round one, probably not. But yet again, keep a look out for this, because I know I use forms all the time, and having to create, prime example, when do you want to present for the user group? March, April, May, June, July. Bang, it does it all for me, puts it in there, creates it, and it also, leverages the model to create better questions as well, leverage those questions. Sure, as we've all been discussing, it's draft. You'll have to go over and, check the questions make actual sense. But in terms of now, it's in Forms, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Stack. It's where it's coming through. And this is it in essentially action. So, I mean, forms aren't really exactly consuming to create, but all of a sudden now we've just probably quartered our time in terms of creating them. It will have to be fine tuned to our particular scenario, but that's generally the idea. It's Copilot, not pilot. I find myself saying that so much these days. It's Copilot, not pilot. And that's something that I think we do have to set the expectations of, is that this will not do things for you. It assists you doing them. Yeah, sure, it will create it for you in that sense, but it is very much a draft. Microsoft, AMCUG generate the draft. It's not saying generate the final product. So as time progresses, I mean, Copilot will obviously get better, but it is very much a Copilot and not a pilot for this. This is very interesting. Copilot and OneDrive. We're going to see a lot more in this space. This is only the beginning. This is the itty bitty beginning. The way that the way the OneDrive has sort of been implemented over the last several years, it is primed for Copilot explosion. And this has been one of those mini explosions. I mean, this will only be available on the web for now, but you'll be able to start asking questions of your documents. Very cool stuff. Generate file summaries and fine using natural language. That's my big one. Now, me being a old SQL Server developer as well, select star from users. Cool, give me all the users. That's how I used to create my bots before Copilot Studio was virtual agents. That's how I would sort of keep that in mind. But now with natural language, it's a lot better, a lot easier. The users don't need to have that sort of logical thinking. And as another example of this is, think of how you search. How do you actually figure out the search terms to search for to match the engine, where natural language can certainly help a lot with this as well. File summary is pretty cool. Need a quick overview. Copilot can summarize the contents. And Copilot will just continuously improve the OneDrive experience. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of OneDrive personally. That's because I'm a SharePoint person, but in terms of the feature set, and the actual capabilities it brings to users, can't match it. You've got your old H drive and off they go.
Do you have any indication on what sort of file types it's going to?
Sorry?
Do you have any indication on what sort of file types it'll dig into? Because it's the new area for Copilot. It's not just.
That'd be one for you, Carlo.
Yeah, it's Office documents and PDFs.
Yeah.
So it'll OCR PDFs.
I think
it won't go into zip files and other things that have been.
At this stage, I think.
Not at this stage, no, because it's not.
Yeah, wasn't sure if it's going to go.
OCR,
There we go.
Sorry.
is it going to actually form OCRs in the PDFs or just take the?
Depends on the format of the PDF. But PDFs can be the OCR, yeah. So,
Yeah.
for example, we've been using this. I visualized, I knew what slide I wanted. I couldn't remember which presentation it was in. So I just asked Copilot, looking for this slide, and just use natural language to explain what the slide was. And it found me the presentation, told me which slide it was. And it's like, all right, that saved me an hour, 2 hours looking through hundreds of decks. And now, bang, there.
And I suppose the other thing to note on this as well, I know this has come up before, is if you have a password protected file, Copilot can't get the goodies in there. It doesn't know the password. It won't prompt you for the password. It should never prompt you for a password. Like, you get those messages from your bank will never ask for your password. Either so there's Copilot. So if it's asking for your password, there's something wrong. But as a general rule of thumb, any sort of file support at the moment with Copilot, I'm sticking to the Office docs plus PDF. And that also includes text documents as well, the basic sort of file types. And PDF is, SharePoint 2010, if anyone remember those days, getting the PDFs to be searchable, indexable, had to do a lot of work. It's good that PDF is coming out the box now with a lot of these products and can be consumed, because the world runs, yes, on Microsoft Word, but also on PDF as well. It's pretty much a standard these days, even though it is a standard. But in terms of, what sort of files does it support at the moment? Text files, Office files, PDF. Now, text files, interpret that how you mean, but contents-wise, raw text. So like JavaScript files, raw text, probably pick them up. Going. Quick summaries. This was the one that I was saying in the foyer before, was where you go to share. put this picture small, sorry. But generate the quick summary, send it off. So giving people that little bit of overview, what this document is about. And hey, you've just sent me a 47-page document. What's the gist of it? Like, oh, read it. Go away. Copilot, what's the gist of this document? Summarize it for me in a quick, little snippet, put it in there. And this is where I was saying that we'll see more and more of these little tidbits of Copilot come through. Now, this not necessarily Copilot for 365, although this is really just taking a document, running it through the model, some Gen AI, some natural language, and giving you a summary of it. So while it is in 365, expect to see this throughout the whole Microsoft ecosphere as well.
When are they going to switch that on?
Sorry?
When are they going to switch that on?
Is that, sorry?
When will they be switching that on?
I can't hear.
When will they switch it on?
When are they switching this on? This is April, so sometime this month. Sorry, that's stream. For this one, I believe it was April as well. If not, it is now. Okay, there we go. So they beat me to it. Very cool. We'll see this, and I've got another slide which I'll go into as well. But this is where we sort of see those tidbits of come through Notepad as well. So how it's got AI rewrite the text. It's not necessarily a 365 thing. It's where we're going to see AI raise its head under the term Copilot. Copilot and Stream. Does anyone use Stream a lot?
A bit.
Yeah, that's about reaction I expect, unfortunately, for Stream in all my years of using it. Great platform, great product. YouTube for 365, basically. But with Copilot, it's becoming more of that. You can now start to get a whole bunch of more information out of those videos, the meetings, the transcriptions, and summarize it and sort of deal with it how you will. I haven't got this video, but essentially you'll be able to say, when in the meeting did Carlo speak about X? And it'll highlight that time index for you as well. So you can really start to target those key points in summaries with Copilot. Very cool. I haven't used it yet, but I'm looking forward to using that because the amount of meetings I'm in, it's probably great to have them say summarize the 3 key points of this meeting.
Do we know if there's any, guidance or while you're presenting the meeting to be able to enact prompts, chapters, things that Copilot will pick up?
As in,
so if
saying, "Hey Siri, do this during a presentation."
That, sort of, it's inception. You're working the other way so that what you're about to present can be more intelligent.
I haven't seen anything on that topic specifically, though. Yeah, go Carlo. He's the man for it.
PowerPoint Live. It's in a meeting, so then we see the chapter marks
as you move through
the slides.
Is there any in PowerPoint that it knows it's a chapter or a heading then?
So when you make slides.
Oh, as in,
it doesn't matter if it's broken up like that in the slides. Like we had I think it was like a 12-page slide deck. It was all in under one kind of group. Yeah. The AI was able to work out when topics were changing just based on the slide content rather than me specifically calling that out.
Yeah.
And then it worked out, okay, well, here are the chapter marks. And then it looks at things like, when people leave meetings and stuff like that. So
because all that's
it's pretty good. Probably where you have difficulty is these types of meetings where you're not using PowerPoint Live.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to try that. I'll try this recording out and see.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything like that. I haven't used it, to be honest, but I think it would be very cool if it could. And then combine that with your slide deck as well. Here's the actual slide deck. Here's the segment that you're after. And not when I say slide deck, I just mean that chapter in the slide deck. But the other one that it kind of does remind me of is also malicious meetings as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how things progress on that. Is so if you've got your meeting and you say a certain phrase or inject code into the meeting and the Copilot picks it up and does an action because of that. I know, not in that sense. It's not going to happen.
Hire this person.
Yeah. And this is where I suppose it becomes, that's the conversation of prompt engineering. Yeah. But nothing like that's going to happen in the short term. I don't think it's that sophisticated. Does people use the create?
A little bit.
that's kind of cool. If you haven't used it, definitely check it out. It's the homepage of portal.office.com essentially. And you'll be able to now type in, I was playing with this a few weeks ago. Don't know how I ended up on it, but I was creating proposals and social media campaigns and documents and images all through it. It was very cool. All through AI, natural language. I don't know if this is going to be tied into something like your actual 365 tenancy where you can say, hey, create me a branded proposal. Do you know that, Carla?
I think it's more around kind of what to use when, rather than like it will build to a certain extent. But the challenge we've heard from lots of customers is I got 3 different apps that I could use to deliver this one experience. So this helped me create, will guide you to go, well, this is the best app and this is what it can do for you with AI. So that's kind of my view of how this will help, because a lot of people don't know, do I use Planner? Do I use Task? Do I use to do now? Obviously fixing that. But yeah, for Copilot, I can verbalize what I want. I can use natural language, but I don't know which of the dozens of apps that you give me as an organization is the best fit.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out yet again, because in my opinion, anything that helps me create documents quicker, gives me a draft, gives me a structure, give me an outline, is going to save me time. Even if I have to reword half of it, it's still going to be a lot of time saved. And definitely worth checking out.
Do you know if Designer sort of been worked into that Create? Or sort of release that as
you can't use Designer technically with a corporate account.
Not in the corporate, it's for the personal accounts.
We're starting to see a little bit of it merging in to things like Copilot commercial data protection. We haven't seen anything
almost the same. It's just one's the pretty picture and that, but it should.
So I think the notion here is that this will guide you to the app and the experience, while Designer is going to be very focused on image generation with DALL-E.
This is a good old Outlook Classic, which probably a lot of people may or may not be using. Copilot features are coming to it, but don't expect them to keep coming forever. By now, most people probably have the try new Outlook button on the top right of Outlook. Technically, you're probably on Outlook Classic, or is that?
Been on new for months.
Yeah, the new one. It's a bit of a difference. I'm not yet. I got a lot of accounts in my Outlook. It didn't really like that, so I'm still on old Outlook. But yet again, Copilot and Outlook is no brainer. It's coming through in every aspect. Teams is obviously a big one. The new Copilot experience in Teams, rather than M365 chat, it's now Copilot chat. Better prompts, better responses, less hallucinations, and I think integration into Loop as well. So we've now got edit in Loop down the bottom of the prompt, but a lot more refinement coming through Copilot and Teams.
Do you know how that's going to work for the people in the same team with licensed and unlicensed Copilot users? So I asked it of the other Perth team when you're in video meetings, because you can do transcriptions, but it's only available for people who've got the license. But you're all interacting with this together. So
what's on screen now is what was called M365 chat and now called.
This one is only licensed
Copilot for graph grounded data, because we're so good at marketing names. My apologies. So this experience is only going to be for a user. Now, obviously, your licensed user is not going to show content in like a team channel, for example. When you get to a loop, then the experience will be very different, because you have UI available for licensed users that will help them create content. And for the non-licensed users, they're just going to see the outputs and manual.
They'll think editing are brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how we should be paying these people more, because look how good their content is. But yeah, all these experiences will either be lit up or not purely by license. It wouldn't prohibit. This is a Teams meeting with Copilot. Therefore, if you haven't got a Copilot license, you're not let in. No, that wouldn't work.
Haves and haves not. Yeah.
Cool. We've also got a new one in the admin center as well, the usage reports, which are coming through now. So big one to check out, especially in terms of your adoption rollout. You can now start to see some metrics and figures. More is on the way. It's just a matter of when. But this now also includes metrics for Copilot and Graph, grounded chat, not your 365 one at the moment, but also then goes into things like Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. And yet again, depends on which Copilot. This one, as I said, this is grounded in chat. Picture of the pretty picture report. So we can see adoption by app, which apps we're using, how's it going, the usual sort of cool stuff in terms of the adoption reports. And the financial services. So this is a new one. I've got another slide on this. This is Copilot for financial services. Yeah, cool. It's sort of tuned towards finance. I haven't had too much of a look at it. I've got another slide that I've ripped off the Microsoft website on it. And also the Tech Accelerator as well. Here's one here. It is. So it's basically Excel Copilot, but not Excel Copilot. Natural language, a whole bunch of formulas, Excel. Reconciliation processes are simplified. Summaries.
Separate license like Copilot for Salesforce and such. There's going to be a separate.
I'm not sure. It is going to be a separate one.
The Copilot for finance is a separate
module.
Yeah, like
Salesforce and for others.
Yeah, one for service, one for sales, one for finance.
Yep.
So the idea here is that you would give it to a specific cohort of users, not.
And you need all base Copilot. It's an add-on. Or
No, this would be all inclusive.
No, it's
Don't think
inclusive.
they're add-ons. So yeah, as Carlos said, it's like Copilot for service, Copilot for sales.
Yeah, because they've existed for a little bit.
Yeah. So it's a whole encompassing Copilot per se. It's not an add-on or additional SKU. You've got to sort of add on to your license as well. Going back one slide, the tech accelerators. Yet again, if you're looking at Copilot, looking at adopting it, or even if you've just started using it, check out the Tech Accelerator website. Whole bunch of information, whole bunch of content about adoption, coverage, and how to prepare, and all some really cool stuff. The link is up on the screen as well. That's Tech Accelerator. We've also got now the Microsoft Learn AI Skills Challenge, which is starting to come out, I think, in about 14 days. So we've got 4 new AI challenges to get through, should you want to. In coincides with this new AI summit that's going around. Definitely worthwhile checking out that. Yet again, we've also got Microsoft Learn, the Cloud Skill Challenge. The 4 modules or 2 modules, 2 learning parts that I recommend that I've recently completed is the introduction to Copilot 365 or Microsoft 365. If you're not too clear on where those lines are drawn between Copilot, Copilot Pro, Copilot for 365, sales, finance, and service Copilots, check out that module. Definitely worth checking it out. And that's so redundant. But the other one is if you're looking at extending Copilot as well, check out the external external content connectors. That can be either C#, but definitely C#. And then the recommended learning path obviously is the full learning path of getting started with Copilot for Microsoft 365. And then the other one that I've recently completed, which was very cool because this is much more than just the Power Platform, is creating the Power Platform solutions with AI and Copilot, because now we're seeing it come through in different areas, not just in the Power Stack, like in Word, like in Forms, like in SharePoint as well. It's coming as well. So worthwhile checking out Microsoft Learn stuff. Planner, in case anyone doesn't know, Planner, Project, and To Do will be merged in together and become Microsoft Planner, and there'll be natural language in there as well. 2025 is the end of life for Project, so if you're using Project, Planner, or To Do, keep this in mind because things will change rapidly and very quickly with that. Copilot Studio, if you're unaware, it was called Virtual Agents, and now it's Copilot Studio. This is where you'll make your custom Copilots. So yet again, another Copilot term in the mix. This is where you'll make your custom Copilots that we did last month, where we had the rules cricket come up. And I also demoed one the other week with Lego as well. But this is where you can point it to a site, consume that data, have those conversations. Now, as we were saying out there, well, a standalone license is very much like Power Automate license. It's about $200 a month. But with Copilot for 365, it is included. So it's not a huge cost.
Yeah, it's a specific version. So they're actually two different versions.
Oh, there's two.
So just to be really clear, standalone one is the full experience. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yep.
Full capability. You've got all the premium connectors. The one that's included in Copilot for M365 provides all the connectors, the full experience, but it's only able to be published into Copilot for M365. So it's not a standalone offering. It's there to enhance your M365 Copilot. That's what you get included. If you wanted to then take that and, for example, put it on a public website and create your own Copilot there, or an internal SharePoint site, you would need the standalone because it's outside of the Copilot experiences.
You in SharePoint. So in terms of Copilot with SharePoint, there is a whole bunch of stuff in AI. This comes down to essentially a product called SharePoint Premium, autofill columns. So Copilot will essentially go through your documents and select what the column should be. If this is a proposal, or should be red or green or something like that. The PII detection, so that will allow you to detect personal identifiable information in documents as well, and a whole bunch of new Copilot things through create pages sites. So you'll be able to say, hey, I want to create a site for employee onboarding. It must have this page, this page, this page, and go and create it. And this is where this Copilot experience comes through pretty much in all these apps, this creative experience.
We have a release date for premium.
Sorry?
Release date for premium and other bits. And
don't think
so
that
There's some features there
yeah.
now.
yeah.
as SharePoint Premium itself, it's not branded as of such yet per se. But if you use, say, Microsoft Syntax,
Yeah.
it's still under the Syntax. So most of the features you
We
can
haven't
get.
got the new logos
today,
up yet.
yeah.
All the pay-as-you-go stuff is available now. There's some stuff there that we're providing at no cost until the billing models are sorted.
Yeah,
But you might see it as syntax. That's the only difference.
but all these
Copilot
features
experiences
are available now. It's not so much that we have to wait for them. It's really all we're really waiting in that sense is for the new logo and the new brand, but the actual technology itself's there.
I assume that'll be similar. That's a per user for the creation of syntax. You're going to buy it per tenancy at that level.
I don't believe we've announced the pricing model for that. We've announced the pay-as-you-go stuff for archive, backup, and advanced management, but nothing to share at this point.
And also, I included this slide in my what's new from the other user group because this is a big change for Teams as well. The general channel will be able to be deleted, so that's going to be interesting. The web browser pages or the web browser tab will no longer open within Teams. It now launch a new browser, and the M365 chat app is now the Copilot app. So those are probably three big ones for Teams that, although one is Copilot, two are not, given how people use Teams, it's sort of important to get those words out there to sort of keep these up to date, because that web page one will change a lot of way people interact with Teams as well. Publisher, if you use Microsoft Publisher, it's dead.
Oh,
Not just yet. 2026. Essentially, Publisher is a product that I use Publisher for like 20, 30 years. It's a great product. But there's not much other apps can't do with it these days. PowerPoint, Word is pretty much you go to. Things like Microsoft Designer as well these days, not SharePoint Design, but Microsoft Design. Will do a lot of what you need out of Publisher these days. So I haven't seen too much of it in production these days, but it is something that be aware of just in case you do come across someone using and say, hey, it's going to die in a few years. Oh, and just on that note as well, it will be continue to be fully supported until such time comes as well. And expect the same experience essentially as today. Microsoft Learn resources, there's a whole bunch there. I won't go much deep into this, but courses, modules, learning paths, certifications. There is a whole bunch of stuff there. The applied skills is cool, where you can go in there and actually test your skills, and they spin up a virtual machine. You have to do a task. Not too intense, but certainly worthwhile checking out. The virtual days, they're happening in various forms and places and bits and pieces. Check out learn.microsoft.com for all of that. And then your certifications, and hint, hint, come on, we want Copilot certs, so they're not there yet, but hopefully they're coming.
Will they be valid for long?
So,
Will they be valid for long?
maybe.
90 days, yeah.
So he's, in terms of the presentations as well, here's a few slides that I've put together because I've been talking for 45 minutes already, but you'll recognize these slides cover a lot of them. So 3 and 4 people are comfortable with AI performing admin tasks. I think that's almost 3.9 people out of 4 nowadays. As we've seen, AI has really upped the game in terms of productivity, what can be done, and what is possible. It's really been an eye opener in terms of what's become possible now with AI. The next, I think, big step will become not so much when AI can help you get information, but when AI can help you perform tasks. So yes, you can do basic things now, but I mean, like, schedule this repeating task via PowerShell as a Windows task on the 3rd of the month. Actually start to have it branch out in your systems. Hey, create a new Active Directory user. Can't do that at the moment out the box, but things like that will eventually come, and I think that's going to be the next big wave. So the next good old slide is 86% of people are looking for AI to assist them with finding the right information. And this, I think, is a big part of with natural language. How we search for information, how do we narrow down that findability, how do we increase that findability of that one document, that one segment of information. AI is certainly going to help with that. Natural language definitely helps with that. And being sort of rooted in Copilot in your own tenancy is going to help you sort of narrow down not only that information, but also the context around that information as well. A few risks, a few cool stats and pretties. And this is where we sort of take a little bit of a dark twist and sort of look at some of the risks with AI and things like information leakage, putting in documents into other AIs that you're not meant to, that aren't protected. And this is where I suppose Copilot comes in with all your protections, your corporate information protection and compliance. But this really comes down to a governance thing, is how you're going to protect your information, how you're going to implement those controls and really move forward. Because as we were saying yet again out before, how much information has gone into those chat conversations, which is just copy and pasted from email, from documents, they've gone straight in. And this will lead to somewhat of a shadow AI. And I think personally that AI has been fractured quite a bit at the moment. Things like ChatGPT, I'd be very surprised if there's not a ChatGPT without those filters on there to make it more less lessened or blunted, because that sort of is where it's going. You can have these very specific AIs, and this is where I was saying somewhat of a fracturing of an AI. And Microsoft does this. We've now got financial services and sales Copilot in terms of everything else. They're very targeted, very specific AIs. They're not general AIs. They're never meant to be general AIs. They were never going to be general AIs. But they're very targeted, very fractured AI landscape in terms of these very specific AIs and what they can do. And that is something that we'll have to deal with in the sense of how are they connected to our information? What information are we getting with? And how do we lessen that fracturing between these siloed and isolated AIs? Microsoft AI principles, just to quickly touch on this. It's not complicated. Microsoft have been quite open about these principles, and it's not just something that they developed last year. It's been something that they've been working on for a decade, if not more. They want to ensure that it's fair, it's reliable and safe, privacy and security is respected, it is very inclusive, and it's also transparent, and it has the accountability. Now, a great thing with Copilot is you can actually see its references, where it's getting the data, how it's getting those conclusions as well, and that comes into those sort of transparency and accountability. So it is very serious. It is something that Microsoft does take on board very seriously, and they don't use your data to train the models. That's your data. Go, Carly.
I was going to say that these 6 principles are actually the guardrails of Copilot in the orchestrator.
So
these 6 principles are the guardrails in the orchestrator. So every prompt is checked against these. So
yep.
the question we get all the time is, what if someone asks, what is the CEO getting paid? And every time we've asked that question in Copilot, it pops up saying, that's not something that I can provide you the
Yep.
answer for.
I've got prompts for that, yeah.
So it's really easy to prove that things are in place.
Yep.
Asking to be elevated to GA and all that kind of stuff. We've even had a Copilot just kind of say no and just say, no, you chat. And that's it. Didn't even, no sass, no, nice. It just said, you chat, press here. So, yeah, they're pretty robust.
Yeah, they are. I mean, sure, there's things that will slip through and cracks and all this for now. But as we get better, as Microsoft gets better, and these principles have really held solid to date. They really haven't produced anything crazy. But then again, we don't know all combinations. But you know, as Carlo said, pretty much every prompt goes through these 6 checks and goes through it. In terms of the Copilot ecosystem, this is what I was talking about, where it actually touches. So this isn't everything. This is probably 2 months old now, this image. So we've got everything being touched by Copilot. And which Copilot, obviously, is the question. But we've also, as you can see, there's a good one there. Many people may not know this, it's part of the Microsoft ecosphere as well. Microsoft bought that a few years ago. So it's certainly coming through. If you're big users of LinkedIn, you'll start to see you can rewrite with AI and with your posts. You've seen that? So it's certainly bleeding in through the platform.
It's always fun when you're having a conversation. They're talking about what used to be Bing Copilot. I'm talking about Microsoft Copilot.
And the other one,
What, you're looking for publisher?
Command prompt PowerShell.
We're getting Copilot for publisher before it dies.
I don't know. It'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. That would be very cool.
It'll redirect you to Word.
Yeah, it would just redirect. Well, probably to PowerPoint, to be honest. Although Word, I feel Word's a little bit blurry these days. Like you think 10, 15 years ago, Word was Word. Done. Now Word is so much more than just Word. It needs a new name. But don't get me wrong, fan of Word, it's a great product. But yeah, this is an outdated graphic. I'm going to have to update this. But yeah, you've got the Bing, the shopping, consumer level stuff, right through to the business, to social media, and everything in between. But yeah, there's also the Copilot for financials and sales not on there as well. But then also, I want to show this one off is because these 2 slides have got a lot of attention. One being, show sort of the permutation of Copilot and where does it actually, how does it do it, and where is it actually going? And this actually shows what actually happens. So as long as I've grabbed the right one with the custom, yep, this is 365 tenant one. Cool. So this is what actually happens when you do something with Copilot. Essentially, using the example of WeChat, it follows those 6 steps down there and through the various processing methods and models. This is very much the default norm of what actually happens. And this is where the bot is here and does everything that it needs to do. But there are other various versions of this graphic. Just make sure to see we've got the 365 apps one here. It's actually for 365 because there is just Microsoft Copilot as well. But they should all follow, pretty much all of the Copilots follow this, don't they?
So maybe just a few addendums to what you see on the screen. So think of 2 circles, one being the customer tenant. That should circle the graph side of that equation. And that obviously is where your data lives at rest. And then the other circle covers the orchestrator, which is the big Copilot logo and the LLMs. And that sits in M365, like the Exchange service does and Teams and all the other services.
This side.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. So that, I think, just call that out. You don't have a Copilot instance and LLM sitting in your tenant. They just like you don't have an Exchange server sitting in your tenant. Yeah. So data at rest is always wherever you decided to choose. Data in transit is always encrypted, as you can see with all the little locks. But 2 points. Firstly, the post-processing grounding that's where it follows all of your purview controls. So if you've got retention policies or e-discovery, it's going to save it in the places where purview knows where to look. So you don't have to ask it any new ways of doing a FOI request or an audit. It's exactly the same, and Copilot can be included. And then the second thing, and you're never going to see this on a piece of paper or just yet, is the large language models are a globally distributed service. We are processing data in Australia. You just won't see it publicly announced yet, as we continue to build out capability, not only here, but in the other parts of the world. So,
Is that part of that big investment last year, or was it this year they announced the big 5 billion?
5 billion was, that was this year.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to build a lot more data centers here.
Correct.
But it's obviously we've already got capacity here. We're already processing. So it's financially beneficial for Microsoft to process the data as close to where it lives.
Ship it.
And so for Australia, we're pretty lucky. But as you can imagine, the demand on these products are so high that we may need to burst out to region or global to process. So we still keep that in the back pocket, but watch this space.
Yeah, and that is something to highlight, is that it is done onshore. All of it?
We're not going to commit to all of it. No.
Yeah, I didn't think. Yeah,
So we have
local capabilities.
capability to process, but in some instances we may need to process in region or global.
Yeah.
Just like we do for every
just like
product,
everything else. It's
standard product terms.
that's a standard
Way of
response from
delivering
Microsoft.
service.
It's that's pretty much the standard platform. That certainly in the older days of 365, where we didn't have all these regions, content load would be shifted to different places. But now, it's here. So, although it won't always be here in terms of the spikes if they're overload, but it should be all here. It's all encrypted in transit, as Carlo said as well. But this is generally speaking what happens when you actually interact with Copilot.
One thing probably to add here, just as a heads up, is the government has just we've just published our latest IRAP assessments, and Copilot's IRAP assessed.
Oh, yep.
And can be configured up to protected levels. So
Oh, nice.
that's was released a couple of days ago.
Yep. Oh, I missed that one. I'll have to have a look. General AI capabilities. This is another slide that I stole from Microsoft, but some of the actual capabilities that is actually possible, Copilot's capable of, that we can see: summarizing text, classifying text, code generation, which we've been using it for as well, writing assistance, even refactoring. Although I haven't used it for refactoring, to be honest. I haven't said, take this chunk of code and refactor it to make it cleaner, or following OO principles or normalize or something like that. So I haven't done that, I must admit. But for most parts, I think everything else I have. So these are the general capabilities of it at the moment. The image generation is very cool. Essentially, I use that to create 49 generations of ancestors. So I got no hope of figuring that out in real world. So I used Copilot essentially to create some ancestors for me, but and when I mean ancestors, I mean as close as possible to the real thing. So this particular line of mine is Viking from Scandinavia, and start with the name Ragnar. Take into account average life expectancy, the most common name, the environmental conditions, any sort of plagues and things like that happened, the Crusades, and give me a list of ancestors, but also give me a description I can use in Bing Create to generate images. So very cool stuff. So now I've got ancestors now at 800 AD. Is it real? Is it accurate? No, but is it using the real world information to get as close as possible? Yes. What is the most common name for a Scandinavian male in 800 AD? It was Ragnar. Like everybody was named Ragnar, like John. So put those in. What's the average lifespan? And as you progress over the years, change the name, change the locations, change essentially their life story, because, hey, now there's a Black Plague. They probably didn't live that long. They might have died during it, or they've gone off to crusade or something like that. We can now start to sort of piece these pieces of information together, and I can create that storyline. And those images, and now with Sora, I don't know if Microsoft will have a complimentary view of Sora, but now I can make a movie of them. And just on that note with Sora, I mean, what got me over the line with that was the one with the woolly mammoths. You know, they're just walking through the snow, has no idea what a woolly mammoth is, and off it goes. And now we've got an actual image and video of it. So it's very cool in terms of what it can actually be used for. So these are the chats that I've sort of had with people around. Carlo might be able to add some to this as well, but essentially been talking to a few places around SA and some not. But what are they using Copilot for? A lot of it is for natural language interaction with data. They are using it for that. Writing emails, summarizing emails, documents, interacting with data, training material. This is all draft. Quizzes. I kind of like the idea is, write me a quiz on this. I actually never considered that. So I've got a master or an expert in almost every topic and language possible to humans. Create me a quiz on mammoths, and off it can, and it will do it. And then you can also then, based on those answers, create a new quiz if it thinks you're above that ability. Or if you think you're not above that ability, create a side set of questions. So instead of going up a level, you sort of go across to do some more quizzing/training. Using it to create images. I mean, I'm sure everyone's probably seen all the generic AI images floating around Facebook, LinkedIn, social media websites. The classic one with the Microsoft is kind of like it's a hole, but you can tell as soon as it is there. I mean, I've been using it as well. The image generation is great. Another one that I've seen they're using it for is optimizing driving routes as well. So have some machine learning in there. See if we can get better driving routes and computer vision. Computer vision, obviously, I can demo some computer vision today. But that's also growing because now we can start to see, well, not we, but the computer can start to see things and really start to then identify it, B, then take actions on what it can identify. But through my chats over the last month and a half, this is what I've sort of been seeing in the news. Anything that sort of you've seen in common, Carlo, as well?
The one that's not up there that's quite big is kind of taking your notes in meetings.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one that we see customers using all the time. It's in the top 2 of Copilot for M365 use pretty much consistently. And the good thing is I was in a meeting with a customer, and so we just detailed like 4 ways of delivering what he wanted, and we had transcription turned on. Yeah. And then the next day when I had to do my follow-up email, I just went back into it. I asked it to generate the note. It told me the 4 options, what I committed to doing by when. It's like, cool, I can't fail on this now because I won't forget. Yeah. We in meetings back to back. Imagine just having a PA there, just listening in and making sure that you follow your commitments. It's pretty key.
How'd you turn that on again?
How do you turn it on? Well, you buy the license first, and then you just turn transcription on, and it will help in that space.
You get follow-up emails after the fact.
Sorry,
automatically prompted. Follow-up emails automatically.
So it's not. Remember, it's a Copilot, not an autopilot. So, you can ask it to create those for you, and also
reminders.
We are bringing out a feature around going, well, I need to schedule a meeting based on this email, and it will recommend who to be there, what time, build an agenda, attach the email thread so that people know the content, and then summarize what the meeting is going to be about. I use that all the time, and everyone at Microsoft gets pissed off because it's like it's structured. They can't come and not do work. They know exactly what's going to happen. So, it is an assistant, but it is not an automatic assistant. Yeah, that's the key message.
Yeah, and I suppose and that's a big thing that people have to remember is a lot of this is not automatic as well. It will have to be manual's the wrong word, but
you have to prompt it.
Yeah, prompt. Yeah.
You have to prompt it, and just like if you had a BA or a junior and they did a report for you, you're never going to go, look what I created, and just take what they gave you and give it to your boss or directors. You're always going to review it. You're going to make some edits. And so what Copilot is technically it is a Copilot. It's there to help you. It won't do your job for you.
Correct. And this is where the whole overarching conversation. Hey, I was going to replace my job. No. If you don't know how to use AI, it may replace you. But yeah, the AI in this scenario will not be replacing jobs.
I'm just gonna throw in the optimized driving.
So
route.
another big topic that I've come across. Oh yeah,
Or with the optimized driving route. I had to make a drive to Melbourne a couple of weeks ago during the bushfires that was happening. So with all the road closures and all the fire warnings,
yep.
I went to Copilot, says I need to drive to Victoria, avoid road tolls, avoid all the roads that close, avoid all the high risk areas. And it actually gave me a quite good
Yeah.
result. That's actually, it was scanning all the websites. Oh, that was really useful. Yeah. Go up.
Yeah, go down.
We just are. Come around.
Give me a link in contacts. Have you considered applying?
Cheaper and quicker.
Working on time, so I won't be too much longer. Governance is a big one. Everyone wants to have chats about governance. So I'm slowly building up my governance framework for Copilot and everything. And
Thank you guys.
grab some of this. Catch us later. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
And some of the areas of governance. People, how do we govern Copilot? How do we control it? What are the controls around it? It's in terms of Copilot itself, it's not a complicated conversation because it's more so data governance. How are you actually going to control the data, control access, permissions, cybersecurity? It's not a big Copilot conversation. It's a big conversation, but the Copilot component of it is relatively small. It's really about, how are we compliant? How do we have these controls in place? How do we monitor it? How are we sure we're going to get our quality assurance? What's our review processes? It's really not a Copilot thing per se, although you do want to have these controls applied to Copilot. And just some of the topics that I've got here: continuous improvement, feedback loops. Happy to publish all this sort of data up because I do want to create a nice governance framework for Copilot 365 and incorporate whatever Microsoft has to offer, of course, as well in that sense. Because I do see, certainly through my work, that not all governance fits all scenarios. So sometimes there are these variations, and certainly with a few of my clients, there are. And you want to be able to sort of cater for that and have that robust framework that you can say, okay, well, we know we have to do X, but we have those controls around that. We can see where, why, how, and who are doing it. And then touch on a little bit of different Copilots there. As you can see, Copilot, Copilot Pro. Is that how they're called? Because I just keep calling it Copilot and Copilot Pro.
Yeah.
Freebie versus
consumers. Yep.
Yeah. We've got the sales, finance, and service. Then you've got Copilot for 365, Copilot for security, which I think is also called Security Copilot.
Depends on the
Yeah.
day.
And then you've got all your Copilot in your apps. You've got Copilot Studio, Azure OpenAI, which is different to Copilot, but more low level as well, I would say that. And then you've got the whole ChatGPT, Microsoft connection there. Microsoft, 49% owners of ChatGPT. And I've got Sora. Sorry, my mistake. Sora. If you're unaware of what Sora is, it's text to video. At the moment, you're sort of not you as in the public, but people can, or select people to create 30-second videos, which are pretty amazing from text. Just to open it up, if you haven't seen Sora.
So we don't, just want to clarify, we don't have an ownership stake in ChatGPT. We have an investment.
OpenAI. Sorry.
Yes. And we've
Clarify
also
that,
invested in Mistral, which is a European large.
Yes, that's the new announcement as well.
That's part of the reason why we say large language models, because we'll use different models depending on the different experiences, the right one.
Well, that's going to, I suspect, I did see it. I've just been too busy to read the announcement, but that will become a service within.
It will be part of, just like we have OpenAI on Azure.
Yeah, you're going to have
the expectation is you'll be able to use that model, the Mistral model on Azure as well. And that's the foundational bit. That's what we build Copilots on.
Yep.
So who knows what we then build on
might be able to build a Copilot on Microsoft ChatGPT or GPT or Minstrel.
Well, yeah, we might see that delivers better results in Excel versus OpenAI. So we'll just, you buy Copilot for M365 and we'll decide the model for you.
Yeah, in case you didn't listen to that, Microsoft did make the investment. It's Minstrel.
Mistral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is Sora, so this is the one that's been doing the rounds, this video here. So here's the prompt down the bottom. Now it's not actually laggy, it's just laggy on the projector. But impressive. Yeah, I must admit that's impressive. To see how it goes forward from here.
Can't wait to use it.
To generate a 2-hour movie, yeah, that's going to need some grunt. Opening it up to the public, oh yeah, that's going to melt a data center or two. But once the fad takes over or gets over the fad, I really expect to see some really cool stuff from Sora and out of Microsoft as well. Because yeah, this made anyone see the video of Will Smith eating those noodles? Yeah, that, I mean, it's like full on. Oh yeah, this is AI generated, but now it's almost indistinguishable. The next big step I see, not the next step, a big step I see with this is games. Hey, we've got a game. The engine doesn't actually need to generate images; it needs to generate a description for an AI to generate it on the fly. So that's going to be very interesting in terms of how it actually plays out in the interactive world. But I suspect that's a few steps off yet. Getting sort of motion picture is certainly the first step in that. I think we're almost done. Wild prompts. This is where we're getting into the AI principles. So these are the ones you were saying, Carlo, where the AI principles will probably pick up.
Yeah, the seat asking what the directors pay. We get that every meeting. And
Yep.
I was going to ask, what does Satya get paid? And we always get a response saying, like, we can't give you this info. It breaks our response to our principles. Now, obviously, if you're a company that has everyone's pay in a spreadsheet that is accessible to everyone, well, you probably have bigger problems to deal with. But if you protect your data, your critical data,
Yeah.
the AI is not going to blurt out that information if it's labeled correctly, if the access control's there, and it then also doesn't break one of the 6 principles. Yeah. So there's lots of safeguards in place.
We almost
And most of these
two-factor
ones I've tried, these are not hack.
accidentally left their computer on with Copilot open. If it does reach sensitive data, that you need two-factor authentication.
Well, that's what labeling's there for.
Yeah.
The label, and they're having the capability of labeling data. But again, remember, Copilot can only access what the user interacting with it can
So, for
access.
example, if I don't have any information to any emails or documents that talk about redundancies, chances are Copilot's not going to be able to, well, not even a chance, it's guaranteed Copilot won't be able to tell me anything about the planned redundancies that are coming up because it doesn't have access to it on my behalf, so to speak. But if you got a file share that everyone's got access to and you dump all the information in there, if it's not labeled correctly, if you don't have those access controls, unfortunately, yeah, Copilot will pick it up. But this is where hopefully some of the AI principles and fail safes and safeguards will go, hey, actually, this is not really the best use of what we should be doing here, and knock it on the head before it gets out of hand.
And when we say access, these are access control lists that have been around since the dawn of time. It's permission based. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's not
not
new
like
access
not
control, it's
term.
existing ones. that
go
make
in
it
and check your
very
SharePoint sites, primarily SharePoint sites and Teams. If you can check those, that's all you need to look at. The rest of the data, like sharing links, well, they don't come up if you haven't clicked on it already once, because you're not on the access control list until you've opened it. And then everything else is in their purview, their mailbox, their Teams chats, they've already got access to all of that.
And that's because it's using the graph connectors to get to
It's using Graph itself,
Yeah,
yeah, and Graph is all delivered on top.
custom graph connectors, like
You can have Graph connectors, yeah.
Salesforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could. Obviously, how then that comes in, you need to have a discussion with whoever created that custom graph connector. And then the second thing, which is holding back a lot of people using graph connectors and more looking at plugins or Copilot Studio, is the cost of indexing, because you only have a finite amount and then you get charged for. And when you like connect a electronic records management system with 2 million objects, it's probably cheaper just to move to records management in M365 than keep paying for that indexing quota.
And so I guess means there's a timeliness uncertainty there where it will only be aware of
Which one?
contextual information that's been indexed at the time of the.
It needs to be indexed or to find it. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Which slide? Which slide was it?
Maybe
That's all good.
diagram, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about audit then? So that's, I guess, retrieval augmentation is the point where it's getting that context. Does that then get registered as an auditable access by that user to each file that it?
To what Copilot accesses? No, you see the response.
Just see the
Yeah, the prompt and the response is what's kept in purview for retention and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can, to a degree, see what it accessed with the references.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's not going to show.
What it
every
actually scanned.
little bit.
We want to often scan these particular site or files in this particular sites. It's not going to do that. Won't give you that level of detail.
One of the interesting things, the chief executive officer of the DTA, Digital Transformation Agency, released a paper today outlining what the Fed Gov is doing, because they've got 50 agencies using it and have had since January. And they have, I think it was like 6 or 7 principles in there that each of the public sector agencies had committed to. And it's like questions that you think, as an example, if I'm going to use this data, I have to have confidence where this data has come from. I need to be able to prove that I've done the due diligence because you're the pilot, yeah? And so that's a really good document. He posted it on LinkedIn probably about 3-4 hours ago. Really, really clever. I think lots of organizations could look at that to both get confidence that you can use generative AI in the workplace, but also some clarity as to what they've gone through over the last 3 months, so you don't fall through the same pitfalls.
And when users are using Copilot, can they see or influence which sources are included or excluded? Or
You can specifically reference locations or meetings or chats or like an M365 chat. You can reference documents in PowerPoint and Word, and you do have plugin control, which the web at the moment is an opt-in plugin. I believe it will change to opt-out plugin in the not too distant future, because the quality is much better with the web. But no, you can kind of focus, but you can't restrict.
yeah, so you can't say only finalized documents, not drafts.
Well, what I would say, the way you would find, go show me all the documents that Daniel's created between this date range on this topic. And so I've kind of filtered it down to a specific natural language. Yeah, but if I say, give me all the documents Daniel's created, well, it's going to give me not every document he's ever created that I have access to. It's probably going to give you 5 or 10 options.
Yeah.
Because again, you've got to remember how many tokens we're going to be using to the LLM, and customers don't want to wait there for 6 minutes while it goes through petabytes. They want a response.
Yeah. Refresh, is this working? Refresh it 15 times.
So, it's all dependent on your prompt and the shit in, shit out.
Yeah.
Probably the most basic way of explaining it. The higher the quality, the more
prompt engineering comes into it is, how do we actually word the thing? How do I even explain this? How do I word the thing I'm after? How do I construct that prompt that does exclude all that shit? Like
has documents there, PDFs, one-pagers you can give to people. We try and call it the art of prompting, because when we say prompt engineering, I was like, oh shit, I'm not smart enough to do this stuff.
Yep.
So we try to, no disrespect, dumb it down so that people feel comfortable. But it's like you got to have 4 specific things. Like you got to have context, you got to have a goal, you got to have a timeline, and it's something else that I've forgotten. So I probably need to go look at it again.
And is that where the labs kind of could come in, where IT in the organisation could say, well, we'll make a Copilot that is only drawing from 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's where you would use Copilot Studio. So, for example, you could create a whatever your company name is, help. Yeah. And so when you instruct your users to ask a certain worded prompt, it would trigger and invoke your Copilot that you built in the same Copilot
Yeah.
experience in Teams.
Yeah.
And they, the prime example is we'll create one for leave. Yeah, because it's always easy to find the leave form. It's a SharePoint site here or it's a Power Page. But then why wouldn't then Copilot say, well, do you want me to, if you're going to ask about that, why don't I help you create one? And it can then, with Copilot Studio, there's a workflow. While without Copilot Studio, it's just prompt and response.
Yeah. And that's where you can tie with Copilot Studio, you tie it in together.
Yeah, the Power Platform or whatever it is.
Essentially, you're calling it via API. Any other questions or queries? 'Cause I know I covered a lot and a whole bunch of topics, and there's a whole bunch of information about Copilot and various different bits and pieces. No, cool. Q&A, same thing. Next month, Kendra is talking. I'm still hoping to bed down the particular details of the time. It may be pre-recorded, it may not be. But Kendra has said she will present a session on Copilot to our user group, which is happening on the 3rd of April next month, on Wednesday. Speaker lineup is essentially the speaker lineup we've got for the year, give or take. People may come in or change. And I will be presenting again in October. Got a whole bunch of Microsoft people there that are presenting. Always looking for local speakers, so always keep pumping. I'm not going to hit Carlo up every month for presentations.
Not that interesting.
I'm trying to work with a client, a couple of clients, to get them to come in and see if we can demo their 365 Copilots, but one step at a time, let's just say. And the thing is that you're sort of, and I suppose in my world, it was like, oh, can we see your Power BI reports that you've done in the past? Fine, no problem. Let me just go talk to finance to see if they're happy to release their profit and loss. No. So you have to work with it a little bit. We can create mock ones and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, it's just sometimes they're a little bit iffy. But I do want to get some cool demos going as well. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the slide deck. So thank you very much for putting up with me for the last 2 hours and covering a whole aspect of, or a whole bunch of aspects of Copilot and various different Copilots, because you're going to have to get used to that like Teams. But yeah, I hope it was worthwhile and just gain some knowledge. I will be publishing the slide deck. I will get the recording as well. We'll post that up. And next month is the 3rd.